Let's see. Okay. All right, so we are now on business management systems. And then let's see, open up this guy so we can go from there. So Moore's law, basically you have a whole bunch of, now she doesn't want to do this. Look at her. Oh, goodness, fucker. All right, let me see, maybe she'll do it. No, she does this all the time. All right, well, no highlighting then. So Moore's law says that the computer chip pretty much doubles every 18 months. If you invest money, how many years till you double your money? Roughly. On average, but it depends on, yeah, if you invest it in the S&P, let's do an index fund. How often? You could do an S&P, NASDAQ. NASDAQ's a little riskier, but every 7 years, you should be able to double your money. So, and here we're saying about how we can double, you know, transistors. So, and then they decrease. Now we're talking, well, when that DeepSeek, has anybody used DeepSeek? Yeah, so it's free. And one of my students just told me, because when DeepSeek came out and said that they were a superior AI, but it's Chinese funded or Chinese backed, to OpenAI, NVIDIA and OpenAI dropped significantly, but now it's stabilized. But one of my students told me about it, and they were saying that it is a bit faster than ChatGPT. And I think Trump came out yesterday and said, well, as competition, make it better, you know? But check it. I know I found out in my last class that a lot of professors don't allow you to use AI. And somebody told me that you're not allowed to use Grammarly either. I didn't know that.
A lot of professors, they don't use to like use AI to like get the answer, obviously. Sounds like Grammarly. I've never heard.
Yeah, I didn't. That's what I heard last time, but I didn't know. What were you gonna say?
I had a philosophy class that was like AI, like it was actually talking about AI, and then I used AI not for my whole essay, but I used like for some of it, and he was like, it has senses of AI. And I asked him, I was like, we've been learning this whole year about AI and like what it should be used for and should not be used for.
Yeah.
Like, why am I losing points because I used it?
Well, you won't lose points for using it for me, but because that's a main issue of companies right now. So actually yesterday, because everything was closed from like 8 to 4 for whatever the meeting was, and most of it was based on employer responses, and AI and prompting is honestly one of the areas that most employers want you to learn. So that's why I use AI extensively. Like I say work smarter, not harder, and AI makes me a heck of a lot more efficient. I can give it so many things. Like I gave it a data set that I'm working in, and I asked it to give me additional data so that I could have iterations of the data, and it did. And it even gave me, I asked it to give me a fraudulent set of data. I wanted 100 rows with 5 variables. I gave it a sample, and voila, it gave it to me. So, I mean, granted, I do a lot of weird things, but I think it's fabulous. I think, yeah. And honestly, the E&Y has invested over $1 billion in AI. Most companies are also investing so much into AI. So, and the employers are. I mean, I know I know a lot of the public accounting firms use it to create the audit reports, also to complete tax returns or to find errors within tax returns. How to find uses. Highly recommend it. Let me see if I can get out of this so I can, because I didn't say enable editing. There we go. Maybe I can add to this now. She doesn't want to work either. Oh, there we go. Let's see if she works now. Okay. Oh, yes, there she does. Oh, good. And she's got the right colors. So your electronic devices, usually, how often do you buy a computer? Or like or a phone?
Every 2-3 years.
2-3 years, okay. Anybody else?
When it stops performing the tasks that I
Okay, that's good. That's very nice. That's very good. You know, it stops working or I break it, you know? Yeah, in my case. Yeah, so I would say computers, it depends on, so I just got a new Mac Studio, love her. And she's got 4 terabytes and 92 gigs. She's lovely. And she's my fastest computer. So when I lose patience, that my computer is not running as quickly as I want. But for business, we would, for any type of computer, we usually do 4 years, sometimes 5 for our depreciation. And then in older devices, we typically we want to take them out of the network because they're actually the most vulnerable. So, and they're the ones that can be hacked sooner rather than later. So we want to do that. And then business management systems we just talked about. So that's why I kind of put these two together, because the whole purpose of it is to be more technologically advanced, right? More efficient, more effective. And what does that translate to when you're talking about businesses? More bottom line money, right? And the bottom line is net income. So that's what we try to do. So this just gives you, and I don't even think present day is accurate because, well, do you want to view your syllabus on your phone? Or do you view it on your phone or your computer? Does it matter for you guys? It depends. What about you?
I save everything to OneDrive.
That's a great practice, saving everything to OneDrive, because that way it's backed up. And if it's the IUP OneDrive, we have a backup every night. So if anything goes wrong, and also with OneDrive, you have history too. So if you screw something up, like for that essay or something, you can go back in history. So I think OneDrive, I use Dropbox, I use OneDrive, I use Google. It depends on, with my co-authors, but I highly recommend because it saves everything. And so usually right now, what we see with business management systems is what I call instant gratification. If you want to look at your paycheck, you go online. If you want to look at a customer list, you go online. Most companies were like cloud-based way before, like say we were at IUP before COVID. So most companies were able to pivot. So then we have the components, right? So a database management system is probably the main component. And this, think accounting, think HR, payroll. Those are who uses these. And then when you have predictive information systems, think of budgeting here, right? Forecasting. And forecasting anything and everything, right? We forecast sales, we forecast number of people that we're going to hire, forecast the number of products, maybe by division or by region. And then a decision-making information system, that's where the CSS comes in for your ESS, your employee or your customers, service systems, so that you can bring it all together. And that's pretty much what we do the whole time. And so input verifications, this is where we're now using RPA, robotic process automation. So what we're doing here is we're programming the LLM, the large language models, right, and the algorithms to put everything in the system for us. So here, read this invoice, take these data pieces, populate it into a journal entry or populate it into the actual customer master file. And then now, so that input verification is where a lot of people are saying because of AI, we don't have, we'll lose a lot of jobs. But I think we'll get better jobs. So how do we feel about job loss due to AI? Yes.
I think if you're learning how to use AI as a tool to kind of enhance your own productivity, you don't really have as much to worry about. But if you're behind that curve, then you're at risk of being replaced.
Yeah, and if I agree with you. So if you're using it to help you, because if you're helping yourself, you're helping the company, that works. The company's like you, right? But also, if you're doing a task like, let's say, recording cash for accounting, or if you're entering data, like as a bookkeeper, those jobs are not going to be there, because we can teach a robot how to do it a heck of a lot better than a person, and they make no mistakes. And now we can even train the bot to notice very different invoices to put the information in. So I agree. I think it's, certain jobs will go away, certain jobs won't, which is lovely. So the decision-making systems, basically, we just want to work with a bunch of inputs, a bunch of unknowns, and then hopefully give managers some statistical analysis to say, hey, this is where it's going. And the more predictive you are here, the better it is, right? So if you meet, like, I think the company Chili's today, I forget their parent company of Chili's, but they actually beat expectations by 31%. I know I see chilies everywhere on TikTok, and people are eating those mozzarella sticks. They don't look lovely to me. Has anybody had the triple dipper that they really like, or, because I don't know, that's weird. But anyway, they did that and they beat expectations, and then they have a second company that only beat expectations by 3%. So if you can do this well, then it translates to the bottom line. Awesome. So we will pick up here. Okay, so we are picking up where we left off under business systems implementation. So when we are implementing a business management system, managers typically decide to use business management systems that they need to make several decisions and to basically ask themselves questions such as, how will the next or the new system interact with existing or legacy system? Is the change worth the expense and impact on employee morale? And where will the new system be housed? When we are interacting with existing systems, managers often believe their organizations will benefit from an upgraded business management system. And this is particularly true if they are accustomed to using different systems with a different employer. So when making a decision to implement a change, managers should remember that any change brings short-term stress and decreased productivity. Managers must ensure the improvements derived from the transition will be worth the expense. So hopefully we'll get more money and less expenses. And hopefully the impact on employee morale won't be long-standing. So the business probably already has some type of employee compensation program. So moving to an updated system will likely create some anxiety within the employees and the workforce, particularly if we're talking about HR. And it will also almost certainly require some employee training. So when we are deciding where to house a new system, we have several options, one of them being an on-premise solution, which provides the organization with complete control of the management system. So there are some advantages to that. First and foremost, it can be configured to meet the unique needs of the organization. Any changes that are necessary can possibly be implemented very quickly. But as with everything, there are disadvantages of this arrangement, some of which include implementation costs. We need the hardware and the software, and this could be large upfront costs. We need to hire and, more importantly, keep these qualified technicians. So IT professionals usually have a high demand profession. We also must maintain and update the system. Among the most challenging demands placed on your IT staff will be to ensure that the systems are always updated. And what is becoming more and more of an issue is securing the system. The IT staff must constantly be aware of all of the latest security risks to the system. We also have a cloud-based custom option. So using the cloud to store and maintain systems also has advantages over the on-premise systems, right? With cloud storage, sites are typically hardened and deploy substantial security systems that can reduce the risk of hackers, and we always want to try to do that. We also have an advantage of the server size that can be scaled as the business management software requirements increase. There are downsides as well of housing a management solution on the cloud, and that is that the manager loses control over the costs and the speed at which some changes are implemented. So common cloud-based options include a platform such as PaaS or an infrastructure as a service system. So with PaaS and with PaaS or IaaS, the customer can run their own custom programs while the hardware and software infrastructure is maintained by the cloud hosting firm. Then we have software as a service. And that solution provides advantages of keeping the hardware and software on premises and storing a custom management system on the cloud. The major advantage of using a software as a service system is that they are updated by the third party that has a major financial incentive in ensuring the software is in compliance with the latest regulations. There are some security concerns, right? They are minimized as the software as a service provider undoubtedly has greater resources and expertise in security management than most firms. Additionally, when you choose a software as a service solution, it minimizes that initial implementation expense that's incurred by hosting the software on premises or having software engineers design a custom solution. The downside is that while some of these packages can be customized, by and large, the manager has to take the system as it is given. Now let's talk about HRM, Human Resource Management. So human resource management, HRM, refers to the strategic use of employees to allow organizations to operate efficiently and gain effective and a competitive advantage. So what HRMs usually focus on is scanning the environment to determine any future human resources needs, examining the business to measure current human resource capabilities and shortfalls, recruiting, hiring, training, retaining, compensating, appraising, promoting, reassigning, and firing employees, and managing employee grievances, absences, sick days, and PTOs or paid time off. So because of the extensive governmental oversight regarding employees, human resource management involves a significant degree of legal expertise. So for this reason, many HR managers outsource many HR responsibilities or depend on their human resource management systems to support these efforts. So human resource management systems combine multiple processes to ensure that HR functions are managed effectively and efficiently and in accordance with the most current regulations. And HR laws seem to change regularly. So this requirement for constant updating to match changing legislation, along with the need for an unimpeachable data integrity, has led to many firms to use online software as a service option for maintaining their human resource management programs and even their records. Human resource management systems have existed for as long as we can probably think of recorded history. It usually starts off with the Egyptian hieroglyphics, right? That told us that there's a significant number of scribes and priests that were dedicated to the organization of workforces. We also have armies that have always needed management, and these systems were devised and organized into large mobile organizations. And then we have the development of the computer systems during the second half of the 20th century that allowed for more significant and sophisticated management support. So during the 1970s, Xerox and IBM developed software that tracked payroll and compensation for corporations with their mainframe computers. The foremost software engineers working on this project were based in Baden, Germany, where IBM executives decided to cut the program, and they formed their own corporation, naming it SAP, Systems, Application, and Products. And SAP is probably one of the top management information systems and even accounting information systems. So while corporations such as SAP and Oracle focus on serving the needs of major corporations, there are numerous smaller firms that have found niche opportunities by identifying the needs of small and mid-sized companies. We have ZipRecruiter and Indeed that aim primarily at recruiting and hiring needs of firms. So the roles of an HR manager. So here's just a short list of some items that an HR manager might consider. And so it could be recruiting, selection and hiring, employment agreements, evaluation policies, absentee, tardiness, sick leave, and other PTO policies and adherence. We might have a dress policy and a policies on gifts, meals, and breaks, severance, bereavement, dismissal policies, and then the legal discrimination, harassment, and fraternization policies. And we've seen more and more that CEOs are actually getting terminated because they are not following the company's policies. Recruiting and hiring software. The number of variables involved in calculating future workforce needs makes this a really complex determination. So HR managers need some sophisticated software that will hopefully assist them in making these accurate estimates when it comes to recruiting, hiring, and what they're going to need to train their employees on. So imagine that you are an HR director, and let's say you work for a regional airline. Previously, you could depend on a large number of former military pilots that were looking for jobs, but with the downsizing of the military, that pool of potential pilots has decreased. At the same time, you are experiencing an increase in customer demand, which is a great thing, combined with record low interest rates that have allowed you to purchase additional aircraft. And recently, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, increased the mandatory requirement age of commercial pilots from 60 to 65. So this complicates the issue. You have a slowdown in aircraft delivery due to manufacturing challenges, which has caused major airlines to decrease their hiring levels. Now let's look at compensation management software. So employee compensation, or a comp strategy, can make or break an organization. Whether the firm uses primarily hourly, salaried, or independent contractors, ensuring that these employees are compensated correctly is the key to a company's success. So while employee compensation software at major corporations may be included as part of its ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning Suite, smaller firms often turn to companies such as Payscale.com or Payfactors.com or Salary.com to meet their compensation management needs. Now let's turn our focus to employee benefits administration. So benefits administration refers to enrolling, maintaining, managing, and discontinuing benefits for employees and often their dependents. Benefits management must track employee hiring dates, their marital status, what choices of the benefits they have selected and used. So here we need a tracking system that has the complexity of modern benefits programs. And one of the firms that has led this is software as a service solution, such as Zenni Benefits or Benefit Focus. And that's what these systems do, is help you manage employee benefit systems. Now let's move to inventory system management. So modern inventory management systems focuses on inventory optimization. So this includes accurate determinations of the reordering point and the order quantity levels. So the reordering point identifies when stock needs to be replenished based on the sales or usage rate and the logistics timelines, which is also known as lead time. That information can then trigger automatic reorders or provide data to inventory managers to allow them to more accurately place orders. Inventory management is often a critical component of business success. If a company overstocks inventory, it drives up production costs as assets that could be used elsewhere are needlessly tied up in this unneeded inventory. So for example, we can have a grocery store, right, that they must reduce prices and ultimately dispose of overripe fruit, for example. You can also have an electronic retailer that has to mark down outdated smartphones. So the lack of necessary inventory can also bring production to a halt or cause lost sales and dissatisfied customers. Typically, if you go to a brick and mortar store to buy something, let's say a printer, you want that printer to be in stock so that you can purchase it. What happens if they don't have the printer? You probably go to another brick and mortar store to acquire that printer. Now let's talk about UPC and RFID. So to assist managers as they try to determine the correct levels of inventory, we have some highly sophisticated inventory management systems. And that is a UPC, the Universal Product Code. So this developed in the early 1970s, and it was like the modern era of inventory management systems that evolved with the development and adoption of the UPC as that standard barcode for grocery stores in the US. And that's what you usually scan when you go to Walmart so that you can purchase your items. So once we had the widespread use of personal computers in the 1980s, then inventory management became available to pretty much every firm in the United States and Canada. Then we have the RFID, which is the radio frequency identification technology that gave us even more significantly faster, more real-time inventory tracking and management. This is what Walmart uses. They have one of the most sophisticated distribution systems, and some would say that once you scan that item in Walmart, the item is already being placed on a conveyor belt to get that back to the store. Now let's talk about CRMs, Customer Relations Management Systems. So a customer relationship management system seeks to manage the firm's interaction with customers using one of my favorites, analytics and data analysis. That they want to identify the most valuable customers and possibly target future customers to expand your market share. So by tracking customer behavior, focuses on the customer experience in order to attract and retain those customers with the ultimate goal of increasing sales, market share, and profit. So a CRM is also used to promote those strong relationships with suppliers and possibly other colleagues. So let's look at a CRM in a retail focus. So in many retail industries, the customer relationship management system is one of the most complex and expensive segment of the business. It includes everything from social media, call centers, and even integrating the supply chain management. It pretty much begins when you're collecting customer information, maybe an email, a telephone number, some other social media data. You combine all of this information about the customer's buying habits so that hopefully the management team can gain a better understanding of the customer's desire and, more importantly, anticipate what the customer would want to purchase. So to maximize a sales force efficiency and effectiveness, managers use the CRM system to target profitable customers, improve pricing decisions, enhance customer service, create individualized products, and customize marketing and the messaging to personalize and hopefully enhance that customer experience to keep the customers coming back for more. So modern CRM programs began in the early 1970s with the introduction of mainframe computers. And this technology allowed large firms to track customer purchasing behavior and categorize the customers in order to better segment the market and target those high value customers. In the 1980s, now when we had the widespread use of personal computers, now small businesses could also use the standalone CRM software. And as a response to this competition, large business software providers like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and PeopleSoft started to include CRM software within their business management system software. PeopleSoft was acquired by Oracle in 2005, by which time nearly all CRM software solutions were pretty much moved to the cloud. So now let's look at an example of CRM systems. So we may have a Salesforce that remains one of the largest suppliers of the CRM software solution. So the Salesforce software will integrate with Oracle, QuickBooks, SAP, and maybe other business management software. So SAP now includes embedded CRM modules in its enterprise resource planning software, or their ERP software. So does Oracle, Adobe, and Microsoft. But then we have some businesses as HubSpot or Zoho or Freshscales, and they pretty much just focus on meeting the CRM needs of smaller businesses that might not use a full ERP planning system, because ERP systems are definitely quite expensive and complex to implement. So let's talk about decision making in terms of MIS, our management information systems. So increased information should hopefully lead to improved decision making. And by integrating your database management systems with some predictive analytics, then decision making from a management information system gives managers a recommended course of action, allowing for more informed decisions. So decision-making management information systems gives managers the tools to assist them in using the data that they have to make these informed and improved business decisions. Now let's shift our focus to business process management. So business process management, BPM, streamlines an organization's activities to hopefully prevent any backlogs or inefficiencies. Modern business process management systems can work with structured and repeated processes or projects that are varied and less predictable. So your business process management includes your program management, some unstructured processes, and even some variable processes. There are 5 steps to your business process management system. 1, you examine the design of the process. 2, you model the process. Then 3, you run the process. 4, you monitor the process and hopefully come up with step 5, which is initiating process improvements. And we're going to go over each of these steps individually. So let's start with step 1, the process design step. This examines the process and it usually breaks it down into their individual components. You can do this with existing processes or desired or future process. What you're doing here is you're typically creating a storyboard of the process in an attempt to view the entire system prior to investigating each component. Then we move to the modeling step. And this provides decision makers with recommendations when shortages or excesses occur. So typically here we would use flowcharts or other tools that depict the workflow and the sequence of operations and those decision points, which are usually the triangles here, where you have to make a decision, yes or no, is typically what's displayed in the flowchart. So you're examining each decision point and the inputs around which each decision is based on. And then the analysts model how each decision would change depending on the input variation. So once the process has been sufficiently modeled, the entire process is written using software called Business Process Execution Language, BPEL. And so then you usually run that in a BPEL engine. Then we move to step 3, the execution step. So once we figured out that the process management engine has been designed, modeled, and we have written a business process execution language, we run it. That's the execution step, and it provides managers with real-time or executable decision-making, as well as the ability to do the what-if scenarios by changing the input variables. Then we go on to process monitoring. So once the business process engine runs, managers now start tracking the individual components of the process, as well as the process as a whole and the performance of the engine. So this is our business activity monitoring, as well as allowing this predictive business process monitoring, in which now we're going to change the input variables in the system and track the changes to the process outputs as well. And lastly, we are seeking optimization. So we are looking for process optimization. When you have bottlenecks or any excesses are identified during our monitoring phase, we need to adapt the process to make it as optimized as possible. So when we identify these potential slowdowns or savings opportunities, the process optimization step allows managers to create this continually improving process. Once we implement these improvements, then we do it all over again. The process is again executed. We look at the results of the implemented changes and we analyze them to make sure that we're at that optimal level. Now let's move to project management systems. So project management software can really improve and be an indispensable aid in our successful execution of a project. Typically, a project has a start and an end point with specific deliverables, right? Whether you're building a house or maintaining a house requires some type of project management, and the software allows managers to make some Gantt charts, love Gantt charts, and implement the 4 major phases of project management. So the project management software gives us those common tools where we can reschedule tasks. Maybe we have to shift deadlines. We can also generate reports so that we can see how these changes are being impacted. Most project management system software is really located on the cloud. So this kind of reduces our security risks and enables collaboration between the various stakeholders in the project. Project management system software provides storage so that the stakeholders, we can all upload and share files such as contracts, receipts, invoices. It also provides visual depictions of the projects. We can see Gantt charts. We can see where our progress is if we're behind schedule. It also has permission levels that make sure that suppliers have a certain type of position that they can see within the project, and they don't allow project managers or suppliers to look at the entire project. So if an organization is already using an enterprise resource planning, an ERP solution, maybe SAP, then you can have additional associated SAP software. Excuse me, such as SAP Project Management or SAP Projects Portfolio. Similarly, Oracle has a project management as well that it can incorporate within their ERP. So there's a ton of solutions for project management software choices. And we also have Jira and Gantt Pro as 2 others that we can use. So a Gantt chart and the 4 phases of the project management process. So a Gantt chart displays a project and its components. Some tasks can be done concurrently, while other tasks are dependent upon the completion of the preceding task or the task before. Each task is then depicted on the chart, showing an estimate of the time requirement. So Gantt charts highlight these 4 phases of the project management process. So we have the first phase, the initiation, then phase 2, planning, phase 3, execution, and lastly, phase 4, closure. So let's start with the initiation phase. So this phase begins by identifying the project goals. Maybe an opportunity has arisen or a client has submitted a request, or maybe this project just came about from a brainstorming session. So once the project objectives have been identified, managers conduct feasibility studies to see whether or not the project can realistically be accomplished within the goals that we want. And during this initiation phase, the project's scope and timeline are given as deliverables. And then stakeholders are identified, and then we start with an SOW or a statement of work, which is pretty much an agreement of what we're going to do. Then we move on to the planning phase, and this one is one that we should spend quite a bit of time on. Typically, this is where we start creating our Gantt chart or fine-tuning it to see it that, what happened during our feasibility study. And the Gantt chart divides the projects into several components, right? Whether it's suppliers, labor, permits, whatever resources are needed. The final step in the planning phase involves scheduling a meeting with all the stakeholders, and allowing these key players to review the Gantt chart and the project timeline. This coordination step is critical in ensuring everyone understands their role in the project, and also to hopefully get all of these stakeholders to buy into the project. Then we move on to the execution phase of the project. And this is what people think of when, hey, this is what I'm working on the project. I'm executing it. I'm actually doing it. Managers are monitoring the project, the progress and the resources. And the Gantt chart or the Gantt chart software really simplifies this process and allows for budget tracking. So if you have one task that is taking longer than anticipated, the project management software might recommend delaying the purchase of inventory needed to complete a dependent task, which hopefully saves your valuable scarce resources like cash. And the last phase is the closure phase. So here, managers document the lessons that they've learned during the project's execution. So this usually helps managers anticipate challenges and estimate costs possibly for future projects. It also provides an opportunity for all stakeholders to discuss how closely the project met expectations, and it ends all associated contracts and accounting, one of my favorites, for all used and unused resources. Now let's talk about BI, business intelligence. BI, business intelligence, uses data mining techniques that combine and then add data visualization tools so that hopefully managers can make bigger, better, faster, informed decisions. Data mining techniques include the ability to access external databases as well as data from the firm, internal data, and put it all together in terms of predictive analytics, which uses algorithms to determine the most likely outcome once it's given a set of inputs. And then visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI display this information in a manner that makes it easier for managers to see patterns. So because many managers must base decisions on nuanced information, BI software provides not only the probable outcome, but degrees of likelihood of that outcome. And these degrees are referred to as confidence levels, similar to what you learn in statistics, right? Your degree of certainty or your error rate. And knowing this degree of likelihood or these predictive outcomes really helps managers to build some contingency plans, right? Your plan A, your plan B, your plan C. And when you use internal and external data, business intelligence can really assist managers in identifying opportunities and threats to the firm. So remember your SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So in order to use the capabilities of business intelligence, as managers, we must first determine which business intelligence system would work best within the associated stakeholders. If you don't understand the process or you find it cumbersome, then your business intelligence software is not going to be of much help. So it can really lead to maybe managers not making the right decisions, but rather suboptimal decisions. So getting buy-in from all stakeholders is probably one of the key things to do when you're implementing a business intelligence systems for it to be of any value. And the best way of implementing a new business intelligence systems is to make it as seamless as possible when you're using the BI software or the tools that the users will implement. So managers should choose BI software for the organization that their employees are familiar with. So if you're already using QuickBooks and you have like a savvy manager, then you would just purchase the BI software from Intuit, who makes QuickBooks. Now let's talk about data science, big data, and data visualization tools. Like these two, business intelligence, big data, data visualization tools. This is the way of the future and a very important emerging technology that most businesses are using now. So why are we going to use data science and big data analytics? There is a need for this improved data analytics becomes obvious once we start accelerating the database growth, right? So when you have tools that are provided by data science that give us the big data analytics, then managers can quickly, become overwhelmed because the volume of the data is just too vast. So this can result in managers that make poor decisions because they're searching or deciphering the information, and it's really too hard. And you can't really do that unless you have your analytics. So data science refers to the process of gathering, storing, and searching relevant data. Big data analytics refers to the technology and processes used to gain intelligent, usable information from your databases. And data visualization tools are used to convey meaning from that big data analytics to managers who have to make decisions based on that data. So business intelligence and associated big data analytics have no value if you can't interpret them and present them effectively to decision makers. And one of the most important features of any business intelligence system is the data visualization tools. So nearly all business intelligence software platforms have a dashboard presentation that gives you an overview of the data. And most dashboards allow you to scroll over that gives you that you can dig deeper into each of the analytics or drill down into the bottom of the data. Data analytics software such as Alteryx or IDEA assist managers by examining these large quantities of data and then parsing them into useful information. There's a whole bunch of choices for managers. So often this decision will be based on what the business information systems the organization is already using. And that's those business information systems is what's feeding your data analytics software typically. So we have SAP Analytics Cloud that might be the best out there. It has some really extremely powerful analytics, but it could be very difficult to learn. We have Tableau, which is owned by Salesforce. Now, this is really popular and powerful, and it is like SAP Analytics. It could be a little bit challenging for some beginners to navigate, but they do offer quite a bit of tutorials. Then we have Microsoft's Power BI, which is also powerful, but supposedly it's easier to use than Tableau, but I find Tableau easier than Power BI, but that's my personal preference. We also have Oracle Analytics Cloud. That could be a choice, especially if an organization is using other Oracle tools. SAP and Tableau is probably one of the more powerful data analytics platform, but again, they might be a little bit more difficult to learn. So you have a steeper learning curve. And Looker, which is owned by Google, integrates easily with Google Docs and allows for a natural search language engine that makes queries of your data a lot easier. So implementing business management systems, whether you want to do it on-house. So if you have an on-premise solution within the organization, then the organization has complete control of the management system. It has some advantages, right? It can be configured to meet the unique needs of the organizations, and any changes can be implemented relatively quickly. And there are some disadvantages. You can have the implementation costs, like hardware and software have to be incurred up front. You also have the hiring and keeping of qualified technicians, like the IT professionals that are going to keep your system going. Then you also have to maintain and update the system, again, where you'll need these IT professionals to keep it. And then you need IT professionals to secure the system as well, in case there's any breaches. And you've made it through this lecture. Thanks for watching.